Yes, you read that right. Today we are going to be taking a look at the 1995 box office flop turned midnight movie cult classic Showgirls. We're going to dive right into my thoughts with that, and they might not be what you think. Let's check it out. Showgirls was unleashed into theaters on September 22nd, 1995, and the buzz surrounding this movie was massive. Not only because Jesse Spano of Saved by the Bell would be making her feature film debut and a major release by a major director, but because she would be featured fully or partially nude in nearly every scene of this movie's 2-hour runtime. In fact, there is hardly a frame of this movie that doesn't depict ElizabethBerkley or any other number of actors naked in almost every single frame. Usually very matter-of-factly, like camera's almost just a fly on the wall watching things happen. This movie, then up until now, was the only NC-17 movie pushed with a wide release to hundreds of theaters. And in fact, United Artists, the distributor of Showgirls, dispatched hundreds of employees throughout the country to these theaters to ensure that underage people would not be sneaking into the movie and jeopardizing the success of the film. The NC-17 rating was earned for its depiction of nudity and exotic sexuality throughout. Unfortunately, audience restriction due to the NC-17 rating paired with poor reviews resulted in this movie bombing hard, only grossing $37 million against its $45 million budget, which really sucks at the time because the buzz was so huge. Showgirls was directed by Paul Verhoven. Now, he had directed films such as Total Recall, Robocop, Basic Instinct, and Starship Troopers a couple years after Showgirls. Paul Verhoven was a really big deal in the 80s and early 90s. Now, on the surface, it would be easy to say that this movie is just misogynistic sleaze directed by the dirty old man who made such films as Total Recall, Robocop, and other ultra-violent and sex-driven films. Sure, the uninformed, casual film-goer may say that, but to anyone who is a fan of Verhoven knows that he speaks in fluent satire. Consumerism and capitalism in Robocop, the military and world domination obsession in Starship Troopers, sharp, hilarious, and often biting social commentary has been a theme throughout many of his films, and that theme flows throughout Showgirls as well. Exposed and skewered are those themes of misogyny, violence against women, abuse of power, and so on. These acts are not met with reward, but are dealt with by consequences and are not glorified. And what I realized while watching this movie and revisiting again was, this movie's pretty fucking good. It's not bad at all. The social commentary and the satire, which I didn't notice as a younger viewer. Of course, when I saw this movie as a kid, I'm looking at the T&A and everything for what it was on the surface. But underneath the surface, you have a pretty woke movie, to be quite honest with you. The horrible male characters that treat these women terribly, you notice how awful they are, and they're dealt with in the movie. It was really a unique experience to watch this movie with a refreshed and older mind. With the large production budget and talent behind the camera, the film looks fantastic and has the look of other high-budget movies of the time. The dance sequences are extremely intricate, the camera is always in motion and gives the film a forward momentum despite its long runtime. That is where we'll kind of get into some of the negatives. This movie is not perfect. It's far from perfect. It's overly long, and there's definitely some obvious bits and storylines that could have been cut out, including the super lame and uninteresting love story they attempt to shoehorn in with her and another choreographer. It goes nowhere. It's uninteresting. ElizabethBerkley and the other actor, who I remember from Total Recall and a couple other things, they just have no chemistry, and the story goes nowhere. I don't see why it was included. They could have easily shaved off probably 10-15 minutes of the runtime. There's enough plot going on around Nomi without having to deal with these annoying deviations from the main story. Nomi's rise in the dance world, which is where the interesting bits are. Also, yes, the dialogue is super awkward and sometimes cringy, but I honestly think that this was intentional. Verhoven is known for his surrealism and often over-the-top style, and I feel Showgirls fits right into that category of those films. Paul Verhoven is from the Netherlands, so he's a little bit removed from American culture, and I think he really has kind of lasered in on a certain area of American culture, and he seems to be fascinated with it. So That's also another reason why foreign directors' movies just tend to translate just a little bit different to American audiences. They can get a little bit lost in translation or just be perceived a little bit differently. And that happens with Showgirls as well. But when you go into the look of the movie looks fantastic. This was not a cheap or low budget movie by any means. He kind of had a blank check to do whatever he wanted coming off the success of Basic Instinct, Total Recall, and Robocop. I think he had a lot of fun, and he had a very particular and specific vision as to where he wanted to go with this movie. ElizabethBerkley really to this point had only been known for her role in Saved by the Bell, essentially a daytime kid show. For her to make a turn to a movie like this was an extremely bold choice for her to do, and at the time I don't think she really expected it to damage her career like it did. Since she has really embraced its cult status, and I think she's having a lot of fun with it, which I really appreciate.
The love that you have for this movie have made this the cult film that it is. Thank you so much.
You see other stars who kind of disassociate and disown their older movies, and that really upsets me. You know, Renee Zellweger famously kind of denies that she was in Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation. Matthew McConaughey has kind of warmed up to its existence a little bit, but a lot of actors shun themselves away from those older roles. Leonardo DiCaprio actually is in a movie that he will not even talk about, basically. It's kind of fucked up, and he won't go, I forget what it's called now, I'll put it up here. But him and Tobey Maguire were in a movie that they kind of just disowned themselves from. But now, when this movie came off, initially, of course, it failed miserably, making only $37 million, but slowly gained its cult status on home video, making this movie one of the most massive home video and VHS releases to ever be released, raking in $100 million, including its home video sales. In some theaters, the movie was released as an R-rated for theaters who wouldn't accept the NC-17 rating, but it was really pushed for the NC-17 rating. Also, the VHS was released in a couple different versions, the NC-17 rated version and the R-rated version. I remember, of course, watching this movie. My dad had a VHS copy and I snuck it and watched it way before I should have, and I didn't notice all the subtext and all the extra stuff going on. I just noticed the boobs. Yeah, that's what I was into when I first watched it as a kid. I was honestly shocked at what I saw as, I feel, very intentional satire and tongue-in-cheek comedy in Showgirls. I think a lot of this stuff was intentionally funny. I think it was supposed to be funny. I think people walked into this movie thinking it was taking itself seriously, and it really wasn't. You know, there's some ridiculous dialogue, namely, especially like the doggy chow scene. Like, what?
Long time ago. Doggy chow. Oh, I used to love doggy chow.
I used to love doggy chow too.
What were they talking about? And the over-the-top acting, the acting is really jerky and theatrical, and you know, ElizabethBerkley is just throwing herself all over the scenes. And
From where, Becky? Different places.
Violently eating cheeseburgers, and it's just hilarious to watch. And I can only imagine that Verhoven was saying, "Do it bigger, make it bigger, do it more bigger." And she's like, I don't know how much bigger I can make this performance. The movie is highly entertaining. To anybody who hasn't seen Showgirls, I highly recommend watching. It is extremely entertaining. It does clock in at over 2 hours, because like I said, if I had a complaint, it would just be the runtime is extremely long. But with the exception of just a couple scenes, the movie actually moves fairly quickly. And there's a couple scenes which I saw some bright spots in ElizabethBerkley's performance, namely a scene which she exacted revenge on a character who had done something brutal to another character. I saw glimmers of what could have been her really shining in action roles. She has this fight scene in which she beats up another character, and I was thinking to myself, man, she really could have done some action movies. Like, she's really good in this movie, like, really believable. I kind of just thought about like Atomic Blonde, or you know, Halle Berry in the John Wick series. I was like, man, somebody should have given her some action roles. So I wish she would have been given more of a chance, but she's embraced it since then. I don't think she's let it hold her down. She's beautiful in the movie. The performances are fantastic. Every actor is just hamming it up. Every actor seems to be having a great time on film. You can tell they're loving playing these roles. Kyle MacLachlan with his hair swooped in his face and his just cheesy shit-eating grin the whole time. You can tell these actors are having a blast in these roles. They really are. It's obvious. Every actor is just going for it, which is so fun to watch. Gina Gershon with her sexy Southern accent, ElizabethBerkley and all of her theatrical outbursts. Every other scene, it seems like she's having some sort of a mental breakdown. She'll go from zero to meltdown in just a couple seconds. The whole movie is just a lot of fun. So to anybody who has not seen Showgirls, I highly recommend checking it out. Don't take it too seriously. Grab some popcorn, grab a couple of drinks, pop it on, and just have a great time. It's a really fun movie, and I suggest you watch it. It's worth a rewatch. Also, you might want to check out You Don't Know Me, which is a feature-length documentary on the failure, the box office flop, and then the eventual cult phenomenon and the cult status of Showgirls, which is a really interesting watch. It goes all the way back to 1995, its release, you know, talking about ElizabethBerkley going from Saved by the Bell to Showgirls, and to the eventual failure of the movie, and then its rise to cult status. It's a really interesting look at the movie, and is surprisingly a really fun watch as well. So definitely check out You Don't Know Me, the feature-length documentary on the rise and cult status of Showgirls. It's a really fun watch. So guys, that is all I got. Definitely check out Showgirls if you haven't seen it. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you guys have any suggestions of older or newer, classic, any movies that you'd like me to take a look at, I'm definitely going back in looking towards old movies to do reviews on. So if you have any suggestions on movies that you'd like to see me review, definitely let me know in the comments. For these reviews, as far as I'm going forward for the next several reviews, I'm going to pick movies that I actually enjoy, that I love. I'm not going to do a lot of newer movies that I don't really enjoy spending so much time and energy to talk about a movie that I don't care about or I didn't enjoy. So for now, being that this movie or this channel is so new, I want to be really excited about the movies I talk about. So I'm going to pluck movies that are So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pluck movies that I feel are not talked about enough, not given a chance, that I feel like you guys would enjoy, and I'm going to review and suggest them to you guys. I'm not going to waste my time shitting on new movies or old movies. It's just not interesting to me to waste hours and hours on a video for a movie that I'm not interested in or I'm not passionate in. So for now, I'm just going to pick some movies that I have from my collection back there and talk about them, and maybe you guys will find some enjoyment out of that. So let me know what you think about that. Thank you so much. My name is Justin. This is Movie Watch, and I really appreciate you guys stopping by. And until next time, bye.
I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them, and I love making them.
Nah, I can do it.